up, dude?
Oh, not too bad. Got a little headache, but other than that, fine. How about you?
Damn. Not bad, just chilling. Alright, so we most likely won't be getting through this entire VOD. It is pretty long, but we'll just get through whatever we can and just go through things as we go and as I see them.
That's fine. I'm playing in
But
the
yeah.
ZOATS in at 8, so
Okay, yeah, it's not gonna take that long.
yeah, I
My
figured.
guess is it'll be probably around an hour, maybe a little more than that, but
Yeah,
definitely won't go that long.
that's fine.
Yeah. So just let me know when you have the link open and just confirm that it's the right video.
Okay. Yep.
Alright. And who is this team you guys are scrimming, by the way? I'm just curious. Is it another collegiate team? Is it an open division team?
Clarity. I think they're open. I'm not sure, but I think they're another open div team.
Okay.
We never scrim other collegiate teams.
Okay.
And then I'm
Alright,
gonna.
so I'm gonna go ahead and start.
Okay.
And whenever I see something, I'm gonna stop. If you have something you want to say, then by all means, just. I'm not sure if you can control it yourself. I think you just pause it and just bring up whatever you want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to control it whenever you want to.
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, let's move.
Rock and roll, boys.
Rock and roll McDonald's.
Oh, Moopy's in here? Moopy. Haven't seen that in a while.
Big goats, big goats.
Oh, my favorite comp.
Is there anything else you want us to run?
Just win beforehand.
You guys?
Yeah, we were trying out players for our collegiate team.
Mhm.
Just run into them. Let's go. Hold W and mouse on.
Call their bubbles ally team.
Yep.
And make sure if you need help, you're calling, help your Zen, help your whatever, because we might not know everyone's name. Or voice, I mean.
Yep, shoot him.
Yep. Or melee them.
I can hear every key that Hobbs presses.
Yeah.
I like it, dude. What keys are those?
Try to, if they're on ghost, try to say bubble for after they use bubble, and then we'll push the Ryan. Everyone else
Yeah.
just focus Ryan, force their bubble, and then we can rush in.
We can also, if we get the ally shield out, we can get a bash Discord, and then we can just.
Yeah, call bashes.
Yeah. What's Zen? What's your voice? Can you say something?
Right here, right here, right here.
Okay,
Top
good.
right, top right. I don't see Ryan. Ryan's far behind. They use one, they use south.
Bubble, bubble, bubble.
Jammer.
Ryan discorded.
Can we go in, see?
Keep going.
Break the shield, their shield's almost dead.
Going.
Our shield rip. I'm bashing right.
Stun down.
Ryan discorded.
Further Ryan.
Ryan.
If we gotta go,
I'm dead.
get out.
It's fine. Probably a shatter.
Yeah, they have shatter.
Yeah, he built a lot of shatter here.
They should have shatter rally.
Hey, let's go under, okay? Under and speed to their side. I might not use speed depending on how they react. I just want to support.
Beat all the way to this side, or we could just.
Yeah, just like go straight under to their side. Like
Wait for me?
Like we're gonna be on the point still.
Okay.
I guess I want to say something very quickly. This doesn't really apply to you. It's more of a team thing. So I think you did well. You opened the fight up with a Discord, and then your team followed up with a bash call and a speed boost. If you ever notice that your team could maybe be putting themselves in a situation where they're too aggressive, then since you're most likely going to be in the back, you have a lot more wide vision than they do. You can oftentimes see a lot more of what's going on than they can. So especially for your Reinhardt, if you feel that he's putting himself in a risky position, you can always ask for him to come back. Because I think there you guys did pretty well taking the space on the high ground there. You guys pretty much pushed them out completely. But you tried doing a lot more than that, I think, too quickly, and you guys got punished for that. So if you notice things like that, you can always step up and be like, we don't need to make a move here. We have all the space, just play slow, or something like that. Or you can say something like, we push them back, just wait for my Discord call or something.
Okay.
It can be like super simple. Again, it's not like really up to you. Your Ryan most of the time is going to be controlling the tempo of the fight, so but you can always kind of help if you notice. that maybe the position he wants to take isn't ideal.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Alright, we're walking.
Go fast, go fast, go fast. Check to see if we
They're
need
right above us.
I'm shooting it, I'm shooting it. Go,
Yo,
go.
Bring Discord in, bring Discord in.
Go, go, go. Nice, nice, nice.
Ryan,
There for Shatter, there for Shatter. 605.
Ryan Discorded.
Don't block it.
Watch for Shatter.
Up in, up in.
Kill Ryan, run.
Burn him, go.
Run is discorded. Someone run.
We're down one.
We're down one overall. Keep fighting, keep fighting. We have to get
Ryan's still discorded.
We lost.
That's a reset. We have to reset. Alright.
Reset.
All right, so again, this was really good. You guys, you in particular, you noticed the brig is way out of position. You call the Discord on her, and you guys react pretty quickly to that, and your team follows up and gets. I think this is another situation where, you guys have the advantage in the fight. You guys kill the brig. This is where somebody needs to step up and call. We're on point. We got to pick. Just play slow. I'm close to trance, and you as a Zen, knowing that you guys had lost first fight, you should know by this point. In the situation that they're probably closer to trance than you are, or they have it. So what you can do is make another call for your team to play slower and wait for your trance. As soon as you see their trance, that's when you can step in and be like, I don't have trance, go back, or something.
Okay.
It can be super simple, and you were pretty close to trance there. If you guys survive there for like another couple seconds, I think you guys can definitely turn the fight around since it was a 6v5.
Do you think I should
In your
counter
favor.
trans at that point?
You didn't have trance.
If
when
I
he
would have
tran-
just built it.
I think that would have been fine.
Okay, even after
Um,
we lost our Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, matching trances isn't always bad. This is a little different though, because like I said, you guys know they won first fight. They're probably going to be coming up on more ultimates than you guys. So this is going to be like very dependent on your own instincts, like in the moment.
Okay.
You guys got their brig, but like you said, they got your Rhine. So you have to start thinking about that trade. When you see that on the kill feed, ideally, like that trade is not in your favor at all. Like Ryan, by far, in like standard goats, creates way more space than brig. And typically, if you lose your Rhine first in a fight with goats versus goats, you're probably going to lose the fight.
Mhm.
So I mean, I guess we should put it like this: if you feel there's a chance that you can potentially save your Rhine, which in this case I don't think you could have, then by all means, matching trance is definitely worth it. I mean, it was a 6v5, so there's nothing wrong with matching trances.
Yeah,
It's a fair trade, pretty much.
I think I thought about using it because I think I'll go back real quick.
Sure.
Let's go high ground. Try to meet him.
Did-
We lost.
Probably shatter.
Yeah, they have Shatter.
Yeah, he built a lot.
They should have. They should. I think I was debating whether or not I should use it after we made that trade, and then
That's fine.
yeah, and then I just chose not to.
I wanted to record my POV coaches.
So I don't think it's the wrong decision. I think you made the right decision probably. Like I said, they're probably coming up on more ults, so even if you match the trend, it's still like extremely risky.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what was going through my mind. I didn't think it was worth the risk. Ryan discorded.
Yeah.
Ryan discorded.
Nice. Ryan,
Ryan discorded. Watch for Shatter.
up in.
Kill Ryan, run. Run is discorded. Someone run.
Okay. Yeah, we lost two.
We're down one overall.
So then yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely not a situation where you want to be trancing.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. Again, it's not really up to you for your front line to fall back, but they should also be thinking at the same time that you are that they probably have some kind of ult advantage on you guys. So as soon as they pop their trance, they should not be like staying in the same position. They need to come back and otherwise they're probably gonna die just like they did. So yeah, definitely wouldn't have used trance, at least not this late in the fight. This is fine. I mean, they committed a pretty good ult to win this fight. You
Yeah,
guys
we're
should
coming
just
up to
reset here.
6.
Right.
What's up, shatter?
They should have 6 ults.
Yeah, they definitely do.
We'll get Shatter first.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
play through that.
Let's go high ground. Try to meet him with ults.
Let's go high ground, rock out with Briggle, and then go for a quick fast shatter, okay?
Yeah.
Me with Bubbles.
Trans their Shatter.
3 bubbles? Alright.
If you get hit in the Shatter, let me know.
I'm looking for bash 3. Okay, I'm gonna rally right now. I'm looking for bash 3, 2, 1.
Right?
I got booped.
Okay.
They cleansed it.
Got it. I'm shooting back.
Okay, we have friends in. Okay.
My shield's low. My shield's low.
Cleansing?
They have no bash. I can shield. I can shield.
We're down 3. Out. We got into this fight. Out. Dead. Double crowd controlled. Did they beat there? Did they beat?
I didn't see it.
Okay, so they still have beat. We used both those portals.
I actually want to go back here and see what was used before you popped the trance. I want to see everything that was used, rather.
Ryan just
Oh, that's way too far.
I think it was Shatter,
This fight.
grab Diva Bomb.
Sorry, that Bubble's second wins.
What, 2v6? Oh, no, wait.
They cleansed it.
Got it. I'm shooting back.
Okay, we have friends in. Okay.
My shield's low. My shield's low.
Cleansing?
They have no bash. I can shield. I can shield.
We're down 3. Out. We got into this fight. Out. Dead. Double crowd controlled. Did they beat?
So I guess I have a general question for you. Typically, what support ult do you guys like to use when the enemy has grav and they actually use their grav? Is
So
it beat or trance?
I think what we've been doing is we trans the grav and then beat the Diva Bomb.
Okay.
Or if they have Shatter, then we beat the Shatter. And we
Right.
just assume that our team's going to be able to block the Diva Bomb with bubbles or shield.
Right, so what I'm about to tell you doesn't really apply to this situation. I think your Lucia beat it way too early for no reason. They hadn't used any ults, and you guys pretty much committed your beat on the engage. When you guys should have known that they have Shatter and Grav combo, so that beat should have definitely been used more conservative. On the other hand, I think there are pretty much two options you have when it comes to using support ults for Grav. So the one option is like you said, if they have the Diva Bomb Grav, then you guys like to beat the Grav. But there is another option as well, and you can actually make it so that your trance gets a lot more value against even a Grav Diva Bomb if you plan properly. And what I mean by that is you can essentially bait the enemy Grav by you, your Reinhardt, and your Zarya pushing up more aggressive than the rest of your team. Your Zarya saving her bubbles and you saving your trance for when they actually grab. Most likely, when you guys do this, when all three of you are pushing up super aggressively and you know they have and you guys are coming through a choke, that Zarya is going to be thinking, oh, this is a really good grab. Zen is like so pushed up. Their Zarya's here, their Rhein's here. I'm going to throw my grab. So they're most likely going to end up grabbing. You guys are going to have bubbles, so Zarya can save herself. Zarya can also save her Reinhardt. And you obviously can save yourself with a trance because you're invulnerable during this time. So this is another way you can approach grab combos. You don't have to always beat grab combos. Again, I don't think it applies to this situation in particular. I think there were misuse ults before you had even popped trance. So that's more of a team thing to discuss. It's not really a you thing. But in general, you can think of situations where it actually does make sense to trance grabs, even if they have Diva Bomb.
Okay.
And you can be the one to plan it with your team. You can say like something like before the fight, you can say something like, hey, they've got grab combo. We can bait it. Me, Ryan, Zarya, push up, focus the Zarya. I'm going to Discord her. She's going to grab. I'm going to trance. Zarya, save your bubbles.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it can be super simple, and most likely the enemy team is not going to have any idea what you guys are trying to do, because that is more of a, I guess, specific setup you guys are going for. And I mean, they won't expect it. I think most teams expect people to grab to beat grab combos. But this is definitely something to keep in mind. You can kind of switch it up and, make it a little more confusing for your opponent.
Okay. That's good.
Beat there? Did they beat?
I didn't see it.
Okay, so they still have beat. We use both those portals. We can go for grab and just have to do a lot of damage.
Anyway, another general rule of thumb. Before going into this fight, I'm not sure if you and your Lucio had talked about it. But this could have potentially, saved or salvaged the situation. But it should be very clear when you're going into a fight where you have ults and the enemy has ults as well. Then you need to be able to establish with your Lucio who's ulting what. This is like super important.
Yeah.
So if it is the case that your Lucio wants to beat the grab, then he needs to make sure he puts himself in a position where he doesn't have to beat early, or beat too late to save your team from the Diva Bomb. And then that means that you need to put yourself in a position where you're not going to have to trance the grab either, and you can rather save your trance for a shatter or something.
Yeah, I know when we were trying out Insomniac, we were communicating a lot to each other about
Mhm.
which support ults we wanted to use.
Yeah, that needs to be done pretty much every time that you guys have both defensive ults, or even any time that, let's say, you have your trance and your Lucio is even 50% to beat, because what's going to happen in goats versus goats is your Lucio is probably going to build his beat mid. So yeah, that needs to be communicated literally before every fight that you
Okay.
suspect that, it's going to be a longer fight with a lot of ults. You guys need to know exactly when you want to use your defensive ults.
Okay.
Alright, let's walk top right and then go left.
Can we
straight through?
where do you wanna go?
Wait for you,
Just
wait
walk
for you.
top right and then go through the middle thing and then
Okay.
go left side.
Yep.
Bait them.
We're kind of low.
They use
That's
team
all.
south bubble.
Walk them.
Okay, go main. Run.
Let's look for grab.
They sauce going this way. They're gonna be here.
That's fine.
Walk forward. Play the Ryan.
Ryan discorded.
Yeah, I'm
Already discarded.
He's
Personal down. Personal down.
grab.
I'm gonna back Ryan.
I'm gonna touch Twitch.
I saw Ryan.
We're what? 2v6? Oh no, wait. That's fine.
So at this point, I don't know if there's much you guys can do. The previous fight, you guys had committed quite a lot of ults, and even though the enemy team used some ults as well, I think you guys actually ended up investing a lot more. You guys had no defensive, and they still have their shatter from the previous fight since they didn't use it.
No, I thought they did use it the fight before.
Did they?
I think
And
so.
they just built another one quickly? Okay,
Yeah.
if that's the case, and you guys didn't know that they were coming up on another shatter, then you can't really do much about it. Obviously, if they go for the bash shatter and you guys don't have bubbles, and you guys don't have defensive ults either, then you guys are pretty much screwed. I think this point in general, this round, comes down to that one fight though, where you guys pretty much completely misused your defensive ults when they did have grab combo. This was the fight that you guys had to win actually. If you don't win this fight, then and you commit like super important ults like trance and beat, then you guys will most likely lose the following fight if they have any kind of offensive ult.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to go over something briefly, but I'll do it at the end of the Koth map.
Okay.
It's just a general way of thinking about Koth and how to use it to pretty much plan how you want to use your support out throughout the entire round of Koth.
Hey, I wanted to record.
But I'll go over that after this map is done.
Okay.
Is that okay, Jovi?
On the walk up there. You said like hold bubble for when I use it, right?
Sorry, what? You showing me?
Yeah. Did you say to hold my bubble for when they use it and then we can push it out?
What are you referring to?
Like on the first fight.
Oh yeah. So first fight, usually that bubble's second wins because the Ryan just gets fucked over. So if we can pressure him really early and force him to use bubble, and then use bubble on me, I could swing and then we could blow him up. And then
Did I use it too late at the second bubble, or did we just not push hard enough?
I'm not
Don't
sure.
go
I think we just
closer.
didn't push fast enough.
Winston?
Okay.
Just say Ryan gets.
Yeah.
Say Ryan
Want
gets.
those? Alright.
Yeah. Just pick up the tempo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we have call speed boost and stuff? Really aggressively.
We can even just go for a stun for Geet and then over to the Reinhardt and then they force out.
They have Widow.
Widow.
Alright, bring it to point. Bring it to our side point. Just bring it to our side point. Kill the tanks. We're not gonna be able to fight here. They have
Kill him.
Ball discorded on point.
Burn him. Feeding him.
Watch out for the Widow.
Alright.
He's
Just
out
play
here.
out of LS.
I didn't hear. If you need to.
Yeah, kill the
I'm
tanks.
good.
Kill the tanks when they
Ball's
come
coming in.
Yeah, I'm looking at bash.
I have Diva discorded.
Behind us.
You're armored.
Ball's coming in.
Get you behind. I'll be your Zen.
Ball.
Okay. Still fighting. Ball.
I'm on ball. He's out.
Alright, so I want to talk about this quickly. I think you guys did well with your pathing. I think going through main, identifying that they have the Widow, and then immediately making your way to point is the... They're not mirroring goats here. You guys have a lot more pressure on the ground. Just playing point, playing slow is probably going to turn the fight in your favor. The one thing I would have done differently, if I were you here, I don't know if you knew that they had the Genji. This is first fight. So
I don't think
I'll
I
ask
pressed
you-
tab.
Okay. So even if let's say even if you knew, they're not running any kind of like full dive or anything. They're
Right.
running a really weird comp, but the only flanker they really have is the Genji. I think it's still in your best interest if you guys are running goats for you to be playing behind the shield.
Okay.
There's no reason for you to be further back, because all that's going to do, if the Genji is flanking, is it's going to open up opportunities for him to pretty much kill you like he
Right.
did there, without your team being able to help you. Because in this meta, ideally, I mean, it's not like previous dive metas where Lucio plays with Zen most of the time. He's going to be playing with his front line most of the time. So unless you guys are aware exactly when the Genji is going to be flanking, then not even your Bridget can help you in this situation. I would have just played on point. I think it makes sense.
I think I
for
ended
what
up
comp
getting
they have.
I thought we were like when I was shooting the ball, I kind of rotated to like I guess
Yeah, did you think
outside.
he was going to come for you or something?
I didn't even know they like where their Genji was. I just kind of saw that and
Right.
I was like, I gotta get out of here. So I backed up into there and I was like, I should be safe here. And then the Genji came from behind. I'm like, oh,
Right. So even in the case that you don't know exactly what comp they're running, whether or not they have flankers, I think it still makes sense to start out the fight with your Reinhardt. Unless you have knowledge that later on in the round that maybe they have Nano Blade or something.
right,
Then
okay,
in that case, you probably wouldn't want to be sitting with the group.
okay,
But yeah, so it makes sense to be playing with your team here for that reason. It also makes sense because they have the Widow. If she does get into a position where you're not behind shield, she could definitely get a pick on you. You pretty much want to give her 0 opportunities
right,
to be able to get that pick on you. So that's probably another reason why I'd want to be playing with my Reinhardt here. And even if they do commit to some kind of dive, because they kind of can with their comp, it's not full dive, but they do have a Diva, they have the Genji, and they have the Hammond. It shouldn't be that much of an issue if you are with your Lucio and your Bridget. The utility they have in their kits should be enough to keep you alive, even if they do decide to jump you while you're with the rest of the team.
okay.
So yeah, so definitely think more about that. Anyway, if you want to play further, if this were like goats versus goats, I think it would have been okay to play there. Because obviously there's really no way for them to get onto you there. But yeah, I would avoid taking these kinds of risks if you don't know what comps they're running, especially when you guys were coming down main. You guys had already identified that they had a Widow. So off the bat, you can already start thinking, oh, they probably have some, weird kind of comp. It's not goats. So immediately I would be thinking of like, what to look out for and just simply waiting to be able to see their comp.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for this fight.
Cap.
Yeah. We can still win this.
Speed on a target.
Can we get the Ana high ground? Ana high ground behind us?
Yeah. Let's go up the stairs.
Wait, both one.
Ball. Gedgy.
You're down 3.
I'm shooting a Diva right now.
He was low. I'm dead.
Alright, I'm gonna pin on a point.
But we should go floats. They have no speed. If we go Winston here, where you can just dive whatever we want.
Can we swap McCree comp? What's up McCree comp?
McCree comp's not very good against this. They have Genji Widow. Or Kree wouldn't put pressure on them. Just go Winston goes.
Stay this.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go for a long flank on left side. You guys walk through main. Once they're Widow's pressure, you guys can walk in.
Okay.
Just go through main and fight a target. Speed
Walk
on.
in, yeah.
Pulsing, it's up.
Someone's
I'm gonna go
scouting.
to high ground.
Alright, give me a second.
Far side, yeah.
Ready?
Let's go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Walk in. I'm jumping on her. I'm on Widow.
Widow discorded. I'm gonna die in the back.
Mercy, actually. Mercy's low.
Okay.
All right, so this is kind of strange from your team to me. So I think ideally your monkey wouldn't be on the left there. He would just come main with you. There's no reason for monkey to be flanking in this meta. You guys aren't running any kind. You guys aren't looking to capitalize on dives really.
Yeah.
Your goal still, even with the monkey goats, is to still play slow. You're not looking to make any kind of dives, like I said. So ideally, your monkey is going to be coming main with you, and if that's the case, you notice that the Genji or Diva are up there, then you guys can have enough pressure to go up there and push them back, because there's almost no way you make it through this choke if you leave a Diva and Genji up there alive, at least for Zen.
Right.
So if I'm you and I'm going through main, I think you had seen the Genji. I'm not sure if the Diva was on your screen.
I think I just saw the Diva.
Okay, let's go back and take a look. It doesn't matter too much, but it's just good for me to know for what I'm gonna say.
Behind us?
Yeah.
Mm.
Ball sleeping on point.
Like a lot of other shit too. Like
Alright,
Mercy
I'm
will
gonna go for right side.
go. Okay.
Mercy, actually. Mercy's low.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go up the stairs.
Wait, both one. Ball.
Gedgy.
You're down 3.
Feeding him.
Watch out for the Widow.
What the fuck, dude?
Playing out of LS.
I didn't hear if you need to.
Kill the
Okay,
tank.
I'm good.
Kill the tank. to the
Ball's
kill.
coming in, ball's coming in.
Yeah, I'm looking at back.
I have Diva
It's
discorded.
behind us. I'm like on left side. You guys walk through main.
Alright.
Whatever
There we
pressure
go.
you guys can walk in.
Okay.
Just go through main and fight a target. Speed
Walk
on.
in, yeah.
Pulsing, it's on.
Someone's
I'm gonna go.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, I
you
saw
do have
both.
info that they're both there. So you should be thinking that, you know, if we leave them there without contesting them, then they're gonna be able to do whatever they want, and you're gonna be their first target because you're probably the easiest one to kill in this comp.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't get on you like that. So at this point, what you need to do is communicate to your team that you know this is actually really urgent. That we can't go through the choke if they're still up there. So what I would have done is called for my monkey to come back, and then ask for your diva, monkey, and I guess that would be it to contest the high ground before you guys push the choke.
Okay.
Again, I don't think this is necessarily up to you. Your monkey he already had a plan in mind pretty much, which was to flank left and look for some kind of dive. That's more on him than it is on you. I don't think there's any like necessity for him to do that. So yeah, I mean, in the future, if you notice your monkey wants to kind of play like that, just remind him that you know we don't need to take risks. Just play with us
Right.
and just play slow.
I think Mubi played a lot flanky when he was on Monkey during the block.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more habit because typically in previous metas, that's how you played monkey. It was actually like extremely beneficial, especially when you were playing dive to be able to flank.
Yeah.
Because most teams didn't expect a flanking monkey. In this case, he wants to be closer with his supports because most likely he's not going to die if he is. So it is kind of risky what he's doing, and if he were main, he could have definitely helped you guys clear the high ground. Diva by herself, she probably can't do much up there if it is a Genji Diva up there, so she definitely needs the monkey with her to be able to push them back here.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens after this.
Yeah, let's
Ready?
go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Walk in, walk in, walk in. I'm jumping on her. I'm on Widow.
Window discorded. I'm gonna die in the back.
I'm on Mercy actually.
Oh, the Hammond was.
Okay, can we
That's
dive?
why I
Don't
got
dive?
stunned.
Dead
No,
man.
no,
Mercy's one. Mercy's one. I'm on Widow.
I'm Mercy, I'm on her. I
Still
got
winnable, still winnable.
I got armor one. I got armor two.
Five.
Baby D stairs.
Prioritize healing. I'm dead.
this later.
Okay, that's a lot of bolts. That's a huge
I
amount of
have
bolts.
ground for next fight.
They use combo blade and they just use diva bomb as well. Anything else? Mercy ult or anything?
I want to go Anna here. I'll go Anna later.
You can.
Okay, I'm gonna go now.
Yeah, now would be the time to want to. They don't have a defensive ult,
Their ball's closed.
so we just have to get a decent
Just
out.
right.
Yeah.
I got armor. I'm arming.
Alright, let's walk in. They're gonna have hamster ult. They're also gonna have like a lot of other shit too, like
Alright,
Mercy
so
ult.
I'm gonna go for right side.
Go. Okay.
Looks like
You're not for honor.
Okay, go right, go right. We have to run through the hamster ult.
I'm on
though.
fire right now. I'm slept. I'm in my bubble. Can you guys
Going,
go?
going.
Is it buffering for you too?
Nah, is it not loading for you?
Yeah, started buffering.
What time are you at?
14:19.
All right. Try refreshing, and
Yeah.
because I'm a little ahead, and then tell me what time you're at now.
14:34.
All right, perfect. So I do want to say something about this fight in particular, or rather before. I think the switch was actually. I think he realized that given how you guys were playing and how the enemy was playing, you couldn't really do much as Zen, especially if they're planning to get on you at the choke. So I think the switch is fine. You still have the beat for when they do build another blade. So you don't necessarily need the trance against what they're running.
Well, I knew they just used their blade.
Right, exactly. So the switch is perfectly fine. I think it's even better for another reason, which is that in spawn when you guys were respawn, you guys had identified that they have no defensive ults and that you guys had grav. So what your guys' plan, and since nobody said it, you can put it on yourself to basically step up and say something like, "Oh, they don't have defensive ults. We can just win this fight with grav." And that's like something that's like very simple. It's like a super simple plan. It's not complicated at all, and everybody's going to be on the same page about it. If they have no defensive ults, then your winning condition for the fight, if you have grab, is to just be able to get the grab off.
Mhm.
So that's what your guys' goal going into this fight should be. And if nobody says it, then you can be the one to step up and say, hey, all we need to do is grab to win this fight.
Okay.
And the fact that you have Ana just makes it even better because then you're able to nade the grab. So I think the switch was fine. If you realize that they have no defensives and that you guys have grab and nobody on your team calls it, then you can be the one to step up and say it for them.
Okay.
It's not your job, but I mean,
Somebody's
that
gotta
kind
do
of
it.
info is exactly. And if you're the one to realize it, then you can definitely be the one to help or rather, to help put your team in like a winning.
Right.
Sorry, I'm cheating.
I'm on the Widow right now.
Widow's half.
I'm gonna go on there.
Widow's still low. Widow's still low.
Walk and dive, walk and dive, walk and
Widow's
dive.
down, Widow's down.
Ball.
Throwing nade. Keep it one.
Even.
Use nano.
I still bomb.
Divas can still die. Divas can die.
I have two enemy in the back. Can we go on the main? Can we go on the main? Go.
Throwing nade.
Grab. Dude,
Got there, Anna. Mercy sub.
Emerald.
They use
I'm low.
nano.
Keep pushing.
Valk that fight. Diva bomb.
Yep.
She's one. She's one.
Yeah, they still have blade. I have beat for it though. So we can.
So this doesn't matter that much because you guys end up winning the fight. You guys get a nice grab, and like we said, they have nothing to deal with it, so it's pretty much a lost fight. What I would do though is, if you feel like your Zarya is maybe holding onto the grab for too long, and you know that that's all you need to win a fight, then you can even help your Zarya set up the play too, because most of the time you're going to be comboing your nade with the grab. So you don't want to be in a situation where your Zarya ends up grabbing and you don't have a nade ready for it. That's just gonna decrease your chances
like
of
on
winning
that
the
last
fight.
fight where I went to throw
Right.
it main.
Exactly. So even if they don't have defensive ults, it's always nice to like
Get the purple.
pretty much maximize your potential and increase the value of the one thing that you need to win the fight. So what I would have done here, as an Ana, I probably would have said something to my Zarya. They still don't have defensives. We can just win this fight with grab. Why don't you go for like a sneaky grab main or something? So basically what your Zarya can do is literally just sit main, and right when they step over the choke line, that's when you can pretty much, that's pretty much where you want to be going for the grab, and you're going to know exactly where you want to nade.
Right.
Because this seemed the timing of the grab seemed a little random. It wasn't really planned from your Zarya. And as a result of that, you weren't ready with a nade for it. So to make it easier for yourself to get the nade, you can also help your Zarya set up the grab. There's no reason to rush the grab here, but there's also no reason to hold on to it if the enemy team does want to take a fight.
Right.
Alright, that's pretty much it for that fight, I think. Let's see what happens next.
Oh, nice. How low is she?
She's one.
She's
HP
like
for the
literally
wall.
1 HP.
She might remake. We should kill her.
Just kill her, Tom. You can kill her now.
They must have blade.
Yeah, I beat her play. Just really peel Autumn here, okay?
Can you nano me when they blade so I can go for Anna?
Who's calling it? Winston?
Yeah, Winston.
Okay, call for it when you're ready.
They're on
I'm in the air. Alright, go. I'm in the air. I'm on their send main.
I'm throwing nade to you.
Yeah.
Purple?
Don't die here, Mookie. We won't need it.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Alright, so again, I want to bring something up that isn't really up to you to be making the decision, but it can help if it is coming from you since nobody else brought it up. So basically, before the enemy took the fight here, we were coming up on around 70% point cap for us. So what this means is we can potentially force the last fight of the round here. But the only reason we weren't able to is because we were holding pretty far up towards choke. We had already used our grav, so we don't really, need to be playing choke like that. We can afford to go back, play the point, wait for the point cap to get to maybe 85, even 90% potentially, and then decide to take our fight. We know we have beat for the blade, so we don't really have to worry about that. And we also have a nano that we can use on our monkey, as you guys had planned, when they do blade. And so basically what this ensures is that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you end up using potentially too many ults here at the choke, and they get another fight. Because if you guys had waited a little longer and given them the space to actually come to point, then it would have been for sure last fight for them, and they would have lost right there, with the plan you guys had in. Because they lose this fight, but just looking at the point cap, I believe they have time to come back for another fight since you guys wiped them pretty quickly. So let's take a look and see what happens.
I got armor. I'm pushing out with armor right now.
Help him out.
Yeah, I'm getting out.
Alright, nice. Good job.
Okay.
Taking the high ground.
I'm holding cap. They swapped the pure ghost. Look, pure ghost.
Can you drop D.Va? Can you drop?
We're gonna want to bully. We're gonna want to bully them.
Alright,
Gage on primal.
I'll play Zen.
Pure ghost Zen.
I'm gonna cut off their Zen, then rush someone.
They're walking in now. Zen. Zen just walked in.
I'm on Zen.
He's on point.
Brig sleeping. Brig is sleeping. I purpled her.
I'm H-ing.
Point.
Yeah, Brig one. And so is this
Dildo.
Brig outside.
We're dead.
They have no steam bubble.
Mine is low. You got it, baby.
I'm throwing nade over there. Purpled.
Sorry.
Burn. Last fight.
Alright, good round.
Good comeback.
So I think you played this last fight really well. They end up switching to standard goats as they're coming through choke. You end up getting a sleep on the Bridget, and then you nade her as well, and you call it. So your team can follow up. And then you also end up deciding to back out on the high ground. This is also really good, obviously, because they have no way to really get on you other than their D.Va, but most likely she's not going to be able to kill you in time before your team can help you. So I think everything you did in this last fight was actually really good. I wouldn't change anything about it.
Okay. Do you think it was
Alright.
too risky to try and go for that aggressive sleep?
No, I don't think so. And the reason for that is pretty much what I just mentioned, which is they have no real way to really get on you if they are running standard goats, other than their D.Va being able to jump on. So you can definitely go for more aggressive sleeps if you want, or if you see an opportunity to do it. It's not like dive where you have to save your sleep dart for the monkey to jump, or potentially a tracer, or even a Genji.
Okay.
You have none of that to worry about against the comp they're running, so I would definitely look for opportunities to sleep more aggressively.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
Kind of
sleeping.
puppy.
Is she better at Overwatch than you?
A mix, yeah, probably. She's playing for me,
Oh,
actually.
she can use the keyboard and you can use the mouse.
Oh yeah, that always works.
That's what we're doing, actually.
I don't know if that's actually legal in the Overwatch League, but
Alright,
Alright,
they actually said that's okay.
progressive
Keyboard's okay.
we can go pure goats with Ryan. We can go pre-comp here.
Let's
go,
go
Ryan.
pure goats.
Okay, it's pure goats, then right outside. Meet them at the whatever the heck you call that.
The drum on the right.
Yeah. We call it like.
I'm gonna go for a quick pin, okay?
Okay.
Right side house or like the
Spirit,
point?
follow me up.
Far right.
Yeah, palace.
Got it.
If they're inside that room, I'm gonna go for a pin. If they're main, then just slowly walk at them, close space, and then find a target to speed on.
Alright, if you're gonna go for a pin, I'm gonna look for the mirror bridge then.
I don't see them this
They're
way,
main.
so I'm not gonna be going for pin.
They're main. Pin
Alright,
comp.
Quad.
Ryan,
They have a bird,
Walk
right?
out to the left. Walk out to the left.
We should bully them.
We should go. No hook.
Ryan discorded. Ryan discorded.
Go.
I'm following you. Go.
Walking forward. Speed. Alright, careful. Step back.
They use stealth.
Bubbles.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm hooked.
No more matrix.
I'm good.
Ryan still discorded. Ryan one. Zarya discorded.
Chill. Cap.
Stay point. Doesn't matter. We already won the fight.
I'm hooked again. It's fine.
All part of the fight.
Let's walk out.
Let's go plan. Let's go spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
We can. just
They're
go back
rotating
to the
behind
other
us.
Okay, they're going back to where we were.
No, they're still here.
Okay.
Speed on the lane if they split like that.
Ryan discorded.
Ulti check. We're.
I know.
No hog.
Oh, we don't have what. Kill him anyway.
I'm on him.
Kill him anyway.
No bubble.
Alright, back to point. I'm counterpinning.
So I don't know. I feel like this is kind of unfortunate. I think you probably didn't expect her to be able to melt you like. I think you do have to be careful. Even the first fight, when you guys were making your way to point from the right side, you kind
Yeah.
of stayed back a little, and you were a little, away
I was
from
late
your
on the
shield.
rotation.
Right, exactly. And I mean, if they realize that,
Oh
any
yeah,
good
they
team
could
would
have
probably try
sped
to
on that.
capitalize on that. Exactly. This is kind of a similar situation. You pretty much don't want to be in a position where you're not outside of like shield too much.
Yeah, I was kind of
Um,
expecting us to hold up for a little bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think you expected her to be able to like push up like that and do that. I mean, you guys were already moving up towards choke. You won the fight. You guys did pretty well.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they're like hard going back on the Roadhog.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I would just be, I guess, more careful about.
Like I could also play on that other side of the wall and just peek a corner for the poke, I
Right.
guess.
Exactly, yeah. I think that would have been much better. That way you're not like too wide
Yeah.
and too far away from your Reinhardt in case you do need to get behind something.
Mhm.
Other than that, I think you played this fight pretty well. I think your Discord calls were good. Your team seemed to have been able to follow up on all of your Discords, and you guys ended up wiping them, so that was pretty good.
Touching point, don't worry about it.
I'm dead on right here.
Okay.
I'm running right now. I'm on right now.
I'm still touching, I'm still touching. We're only down one. We're on right, we're on right,
Knock,
we're on
knock,
right.
knock.
We're on Zarya, Zarya, no shield.
Oh, they grabbed. Okay, just wipe.
Alright, not bad, not bad. 50%.
Yeah, they use grab.
Yeah,
They
go
showed
for
it.
Early. Okay.
They grab Mara.
They're still in the hug. We should just run into whoever they have. They don't have a Brigitte, so the Reinhardt's really easy to bully.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Roadhog's easy to bully.
Run over the Rhino, run over the Rhino.
We're not all here yet. We're down two.
Hug this wall,
We're
walk
coming
your
back,
main.
coming back.
Let's go, let's go.
Just go through main.
Also, I guess something to say about the previous push where you ended up getting picked. If you notice your team's backing out when you don't really need to, and you're trying to build your trance, you can even call to your team to still hold close. Like if you notice they're not really committing to like a close hold,
Mhm.
then make it very clear to your team that you're close to trance. If we hold close for a couple more seconds, we can build my trance and pretty much secure the next fight. Because you guys won the first fight, so most likely they're not coming up on any kind of defensive ult except for maybe more ult in this case. But trance is obviously much better than more ult for many
Right.
reasons. So that definitely would have been a lot better for you, I think.
Okay.
So if you are close to trance like that, then by all means, if the enemy team is respawning, then ask for your team to play closer to choke, and that way you probably don't risk getting picked off like that as much at least.
Okay. Hog Discord right now.
Look for Grappy, look for
Get
Grappy.
Moira. I almost have Shatter, we can
Walk
do
in
that.
main, walk in main.
Yeah, is there any south?
Yeah, personal down.
Ryan Discorded.
I'm walking in them.
Grab a point.
Huge grab, huge grab.
I'm on right. I'm on
One
right.
is Zarya.
I pinned Lucia.
Ryan Discorded.
Shattering. I got 3.
No more ults. Target, target, target.
Zarya no personal.
Okay.
I'm
Maybe lose ball,
Hog is low, hog is low, hog is low.
Target.
Hog is one, hog is one.
Hog.
Ryan is low, Ryan is low, Ryan is low.
Okay, go Diva, go Diva, go Diva. Moira Discorded.
Stacker, Diva,
Ryan's still low main, Ryan's still low main.
Kill more, stacker Diva. Good. Okay. Hey, what I want us to do is just pull back the point. Like, there's no real reason to contest outside of our limits. We can hold close, but then come back.
So just another general thing that I noticed. This is another situation where you guys have both defensive ults, or at least your Lucia's close going into this fight, and you guys hadn't said anything about how you wanted to use them. I feel like at one point, there was a chance where you may have wanted to pop your trance.
Yeah, I
because
think
your
with the
Reinhardt was being-
yeah, I was thinking about doing it too, and at that point.
right. Because I mean he was like killable. I think your
Yeah.
Bridget ended up getting an ice heal on him, so it saved him. But this I feel could have easily ended up in a situation where you guys even potentially like stack your ults or something because you're worried that your Ryan's gonna. So it's just really important to pretty much any time you have trance, always hit tab, see if your Lucio has beat or is close to beat.
Right.
And try to plan exactly what you want to use it for, and that way your Lucio will know what he wants to beat for going into the next fight.
If they try to do some random shit, okay?
And in this situation, it doesn't even need to be like a specific thing that you're trying to counter with your trance, because in the previous fight they used grab, so the only like valuable offensive ult they have really is shatter. So it can be something as simple as like, hey, I'm gonna trance first this fight if we need to, or something like that. You don't really have to worry about the grab. What this means to your Lucio when you say that is, for in this case, if our Reinhardt gets low, then don't even think about using your beat. I'll be ready with my trance.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't even need to be like communicating some kind of specific.
It could just be
way
like
to use
all
your trance.
ult
Yeah,
first, you ult
like,
second.
exactly. That way you guys have some kind of like sequence going on with your ultimate.
We use both of our crowd control ultimates here, so we have to be careful. It's gonna be scrappy. They have Reinhardt ult for sure, right?
Yes.
As soon as you start swinging, I'm gonna rally.
They're on Brigitte now, so the hog. Just come back. See if we can bait out a cooldown. Just wait a little.
I think we stuff.
Come back. They see you. Come back. Just come back. We get time. We already have the point. We don't need to take a fight.
Ryan Discorded.
Alright, now we look for a fight.
I'm gonna rally right now.
Ryan still Discorded.
Yeah, go in.
They use team bubble.
We can live here.
Transing.
Be careful.
We're up.
Ryan's still discorded.
Come on, Ryan.
Come on, Ryan. He shattered me.
On the right, break that shield.
Ryan's on, we got him. I think we got him.
Upper Ryan.
Diva discorded.
So this grab, for example, is actually kind of like what I was referring to earlier. This was a situation where you trance the grab, they had Diva Bomb, but you guys all managed to survive the grab, and that's because your Zarya had both bubbles. You yourself were invulnerable to any damage because you were tranced. So this is definitely like a very viable option when considering like what to do against grab combos. And I think, I don't know, I just wanted to pause to just say that this is like a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
Trying to think. I think I had something else to say, but I can't remember right now. So if it comes back to me, I'll just pause and bring it up.
'Kay.
But let's see what happens.
Got 3 on me.
I'm throwing it on Zarya. It's on break.
Kill the brick. Diva's on the left
Diva's
side.
gonna touch.
She's trying to fly for the edge.
Sorry, coming back.
They don't have grab.
Ryan discorded.
Doom can touch.
Damn, point.
First, I booped him off.
He's bash.
Doom 1. Lucio on
You're on
point.
it. I'm rallying point.
Lucius half. Lucius drop.
Lucio still 1.
He was on.
Okay, can we get
I can't hit him.
Got orb.
What's the target, guys? What's the orb?
Lucio. Now Diva.
Ball.
Hammond now. I can boop him in 3 seconds. So I was gonna touch next.
Ball 1.
Focus on the Hammond. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So the thing I actually did want to say has to do with you and your brig, and I guess your so it actually helps to not only talk about your support ults with your Lucio and your Zen, but also with your brig. And the reason for that is you'll often see teams using rally as a way of baiting certain enemy ultimates, especially defensive ultimates. So eventually, when you get better at like identifying when teams have both defensive ults, for example, then you can potentially set up a play for your brig to use rally in order to bait out a defensive ult. And what this means is you're not going to have to match like trance for trance, for example. You can use your trance in a much more valuable way. So in a way, this actually sets yourself up for a much more valuable trance, basically. So if you notice that they have defensive ults, let's say your team has both defensive ults and the enemy team has both as well, but you guys have rally and they don't, then by all means you can call to your brig, hey, let's open up this fight with rally, let's bait out one of their defensives and then fall back and wait for my trance or something.
Can't you also like, because you never really want to take a fight while they're mid rally? Can't you just like rally like, or not rally, but like push in hard just to see if they pop rally and then peel back?
Yeah, absolutely. You can start baiting it like that. Because when teams see you running at them, let's say they're worried about like Bash Shatter or something, and they have rally, they might pop their. And likewise, you guys can do the same. Like if you see them running into you, you guys can pop rally as a way of kind of holding them back for a bit.
Right.
And if they're surprised by this, they may potentially pop a defensive ult if they have both defensive ults and they feel like they need to use one. And by that point, you guys still have both of your defensive ults, so you know for sure you're going to get probably way more value out of yours than theirs, because they're essentially trading a transfer rally, and trance is obviously much better than rally. It has way more value. So you're pretty much ensuring that you're going to be getting more value out of your trance, most likely, if you're able to set your team up in order to be able to bait the enemy defensive ults. That way you're not in a situation where you're either always matching trances or using them for the very obvious like grab combos or bash shatters. I mean, it's not a mistake by any means if you feel like you need to match trances, but obviously using a trance for a grab combo and surviving it has way more value than just match.
Yeah.
So
you're basically using it on their terms, not yours.
Exactly. That's right. The other thing I wanted to say, I brought it up earlier. When you're thinking about like ult economy on Koth as a support player, doesn't matter whether you're flex support or not, you pretty much want to at all times be able to picture like what the perfect scenario for you guys looks like on Koth. And in this meta, typically you go, or if you have like a perfect round of Koth, you guys are going to have, I would say, 4 fights for that one round. Um, and this is basically what like a perfect Koth round would look like for you as a support player. So the first fight, neither team has any ultimates. Um, and I don't know if I brought it up to you last time, but if you guys are mirroring goats versus goats, the only real advantage when you guys don't have ultimates is your ability as a Zen to be able to discord certain targets, your team to be able to follow up with a bash and a speed boost, and then your guys' overall ability to target focus that same target. So this is the only real advantage you can give yourselves in goats versus goats meta in a fight, typically first fights where neither team has any ultimates. Um, and this is pretty much like as a Zen, this should be like your main goal going into every first fight on Koth. You're just playing around your discords and anything that seems urgent, any target you discord that seems urgent, you can always make that call to your team and hopefully they fall. This isn't like double sniper meta where you can create so many more variables by just getting a pick before a fight even starts. This is not like a pick oriented meta at all. These are like very slow fights you're going to be having most of the time with a lot of ultimates. And it may seem fast at times because you're going for pretty quick plays like bash shatters, but if you take things too quickly, people have this like misconception. I feel that all you need to do in goats is hold W, but it's way more complicated than that. If you do take fights too quickly, even after you get a pick, you can potentially put yourselves in a really bad situation, and the fight will no longer be in your favor. So first fights, just focus on your discords, who you should be focusing, and make it urgent to your team because you know that neither team has ultimate. Um, so let's assume, since this is like a perfect Koth scenario we're going after, if you guys win the first fight, your second fight is going to look something like this. You guys are probably coming up to some ultimates, probably not all of them. The earliest ultimates you'll have most of the time are things like Shatter, maybe a Trance, potentially even a Grav, although it's not very likely. But Shatter, Trance, maybe a Rally, maybe a Beat. Anyway, the point is that you don't have all of your ultimates yet, but you have some kind of ult advantage over the enemy. Not only that, but once you actually cap the point after you win the first fight, you have way more space and positioning over the enemy team. And what this means is you can force the enemy team with just your positioning alone without having to use any ultimates to pretty much be able to use their cooldowns before even getting to the objective. And so this is why in GOATS it's super important to hold chokes after you win fights, because it's just going to force the enemy to have to commit way more cooldowns without getting as much value as your cooldowns.
Right.
So your second fight's going to look something like that. The enemy team probably isn't coming up to many ults. If they are, it's nothing to really worry about. You'll probably have more answers to their ults than they have to yours because they did lose the first fight. So you know for sure you have some kind of ult advantage going into the second fight. And if you win the second fight, then your third fight's going to look something like this. You probably have like your most important ultimates this fight. So you're talking about like Grav, Diva Bomb, probably Beat by now, definitely Shatter, most likely a Rally, and yeah, I mean you guys are pretty much going to have like your most important ultimates. So you're thinking as a Zen going into this fight should be okay. This is a fight where I want to plan with my Lucio probably exactly what we want to use our defensive ultimates for. I know we have both. The enemy team, now that it's third fight and they've lost 2 fights, which probably means they haven't used too many ultimates up until now, means that they're probably going to have both defensive ultimates as well. So you guys need to be able to plan accordingly around that. So one of the advantages you'll find going into this third fight, if you did win the 2 previous fights, is that you'll probably have a rally before they do. So this, for example, would be a situation, ideally, where you kind of use the rally to bait any defensive ultimates they have, and that way you don't have to end up matching the trance. You can, find much more valuable ways to use your trance. So that's your third fight, and now let's assume that you even win the third fight. Your fourth fight's probably going to look something like this. You probably don't have too many more ultimates. You pretty much used most of your ult bank in the third fight because the enemy probably had a lot of ultimates too that you needed to play around. So your fourth fight, what you pretty much want to do is, you know, by this point, if the enemy hasn't used too many ultimates, you probably don't have too many ways to win the fight. You can't create as many variables, so you're gonna want to play as slow as possible. You're pretty much gonna want the enemy to have to pay a lot to be able to win this fight, even though you know it's very likely that they're gonna win it anyway. You want them to pay as much as possible, so that way when you reset, you can think about what they've used, and if they've used a lot more than they needed to, because you guys did a good job of like baiting certain ultimates, then you know for the following fight, after they win the fourth fight, you're gonna have more ultimates than them, and you can probably close out the round there. So yeah, that's pretty much what like your perfect Koth round looks like, and that's what you should be thinking about as a support player, and how you should be using your ultimates going into the fight. So typically, first fight you're not gonna have your trance. Second fight you might have it, but you should think of ways in which you don't have to use it, unless it's like really necessary. Think of ways to position yourself so that you can force the enemy to use cooldowns before they actually even get to the objective. And then third fight, you're most likely going to be looking to use your trance here in some way. So coordinate with your Lucio, and even your Brig if she has rally, exactly what you want to be using your trance for, and in what sequence. And then fourth fight, you're pretty much playing slower if you don't have your trance. If you guys don't have any ultimates, or if you guys don't have too many ultimates anyway, you guys are going to be playing slower. You're going to be playing much slower yourself as a Zen, and you're pretty much just forcing the enemy to have to pay a lot more to win this fight. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. But that applies to like every Koth. Unless you're talking about a different meta, there are metas where you might only get 3 fights in one round of Koth as opposed to 4. But for obvious reasons, I mean, we're focusing on this meta, so 4 fights is usually the most common amount of fights you'll find in one round of Koth.
Is that what you wanted to talk about, but you're saving it for the end of the Koth game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And you can use this kind of thinking to, figure out when it's actually better for you to be able to trance. Because before let's say you hadn't really thought about this before, you were probably running into so many situations where you felt you needed to trance on the second fight or something.
Right.
And that might be the case. Like there are definitely situations where, you might have to trance on the second fight. For example, like the second fight could end up being a lot longer than you anticipated, and let's say the enemy ends up building certain ultimates as well. If they have a trance, then I would definitely consider still matching it. It's not like I wouldn't use my trance in a second fight. But it's pretty much just to give you an idea of how to track ultimates better yourself, given the fights you're actually winning and what you're not winning, and then being able to plan your trance accordingly based on what the enemy has and what you could potentially have as well. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
So let's keep going because I want to get to the next map. I want to get hopefully through at least the first half of the next. I don't think we'll be able to do more than that, but that's all right.
That's fine.
Most of what I'm telling you anyway applies to pretty much every map.
Yeah.
This is going to be like helpful stuff for you to apply pretty much anywhere. It's just like fundamental Overwatch stuff that you should always be reminded of and that you should always be keeping in mind yourself.
Yeah, you have to think of yourself as them like invisible. If they're like chasing you, like Orion's actually just cleaving everything.
We just going through ghosts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
And I also didn't want like what happened with the Roadhog to happen again, whereas we get split or whatever. And that was taking like a pick off of our Zen, but
We should
it worked out.
Yeah.
Yo, you guys want to speed through the red house while I play main and then like just quick
I
fix them?
think we should just chill here.
Who's
They have
the-
Genji.
who's the team who do that?
Let's all close. Well, there's no reason not to all close.
Yeah. I don't like the red house threat though. We don't have
Why
to
should hold this?
Genji's right door.
Hey, Winston.
Genji discorded.
Genji behind you, D.Va.
I can't armor.
That's not a
We have no protected.
Yeah.
Is it
Wait for bubble, wait for bubble.
Yeah, it's time, it's time. Come up here so you guys.
They're switching to double spam. D.Va's half on red.
That's fine.
Dude, just progress into the tanks as soon as we can then.
Yeah, I'll shield up.
Rat point. Watch out.
Ball discorded.
Anything else?
Chilling.
Okay, can we fully tanks?
They're Hamilton in.
Nice.
I have armor too, D.Va.
Ball.
I'm on ball.
D.Va discorded red.
Not a big deal.
we don't need to go too far. We don't need to go too far.
Junk's in the right room here.
I need heals. I need heals.
Pulling out next to this wall. Force them to.
I'm boosting on.
Force their fair to peek. Wait, you can speed on Junk. He's right now. We can speed on
Go,
him.
go, go. Can we?
Go, go, go.
No, he's
Step
dead.
ready, too. I broke his trap.
Oh, fuck.
He's on the stairs. He's on the stairs.
I'm behind you, but it's not.
Fair low. Fair low.
Okay, I might be
Not
boosted.
not there.
There's one. Oh,
I'm dead, Kyrie.
It's a good stall. It's a good stall. Keep fighting.
pick the ball.
So here, actually, you've already been able to build your trans pretty quickly. I think you had a chance to actually just back out and die because most likely your team's gonna have to reset here. You already lost 2.
Yeah, I think the call
it's
was
not-
made to just die on cart.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters too much. But I mean, if you don't die, you can actually probably take a fight a little sooner, as opposed to you dying maybe potentially too late. Or as the last. I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I don't think it's a bad move to like go into card here. You guys are gonna have to reset no matter what. But I mean, if you have a chance to like escape, and you're pretty sure of that, then by all means, just do that instead. Because Zen stalling cart, you're not gonna be able to stall for pretty much anything significant anyway.
Okay.
And I mean, you had your trans here, so it's not like you're like 70-80%. You're trying to build your trans for them.
Yeah.
So there's
well,
actually no. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought about like just backing up, but I'm like they're probably
Uh-huh.
gonna like end up just speeding on to me and killing me, so I might as well just move toward.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're worried, if you're not 100% sure that you can make it out, then by all means just throw yourself at the cart.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a mistake by any means. I think it's something you can apply to maybe other situations. If you feel like you can escape, then it's always
Mhm.
better to just get out. All right, let's see what happens the next.
You're armored?
Fighting, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
They're brushing.
I'll shoot back. Okay, that's both these missiles.
They have Widow now.
Okay.
So this is actually really good. They ended up using Barrage for that,
Okay, they
and I
used
don't think they
Barrage.
needed to.
They've got 4 ultimates. They use both DPS ult.
Right.
So they're gonna have.
So as a Zen, you should be thinking, okay, they've used Barrage, so how can my trance be useful and valuable going into the next fight? I don't have to worry about Barrage. What else do I need to worry about?
That large attack mouse.
Yeah.
It's the 1080 or whatever it's called on the 980 or whatever.
Alright, I think I fixed it. It's still really low. It's a G703.
Shit.
Way back. There we go. Widow's speaking main. Can we move in? Go.
I'm gonna go for grab.
Widow's far from main.
Yep. Portal.
Alright, I'm gonna jump there, Widow. Just give me a
I'm
second.
playing with Zarya. Call for speed when you want it.
Okay, Pharaoh's on shift. Diva, can you make sure you touch?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm
Our team as well.
I'm looking for Widow. I don't see her. Oh, I'm gonna go on her. I'm gonna go on her.
I can anchor card. I can
I'm on
anchor
their
card.
backline. I'm on their backline.
Portal Diva back.
Get a target. Go get a target.
Paul discorded.
Ham and card.
Right now, there's
Hannah's
one.
one.
Widow main. Widow main.
Hannah's one. I need help main.
I bubbled you. You're good.
Yeah, armored.
Watch res, maybe.
Fair discorded low.
They're behind you, watch out.
Good now.
Remember
I'm
that up?
fucking dead. You down 2 right now? What are we on, guys?
I'm on ball. Ball
I'm transing this.
Can you clear mines up
Down
it?
2. Still a grab coming up?
I can't grab anything.
You're only 3. It's probably not worth it. Coming back.
Fair half.
I can kill her.
So I actually want to go back because I feel like there's a chance you could have actually used the trance sooner to like
Yeah, yeah.
secure the fight pretty much.
Again, they're not gonna have speed to work with.
I think you're doing fine with discords though. You're doing fine with healing orbs. You're not focusing too much on the Pharah.
Alright, I'm gonna jump there, Widow. Just give me a
I'm
second.
playing with Zarya. Call for
I think your positioning's fine too. I think going into the apartments here, especially when they have the Pharah, is fine. She's probably not going to follow up and come to you at.
For Widow, I don't see her. Oh, I'm gonna go on her.
I can anchor card. I can
I'm on
anchor
their
card.
backline. I'm on their backline.
Portal Diva back.
Get a target. Go get a target.
Paul discorded.
Ham and card.
Right now, there's
Hannah's
one.
one.
Widow main. Widow main.
Hannah's one. I need help main.
I bubbled you. You're good.
Yeah, armored.
Watch res, maybe.
Fair discorded low.
They're behind you, watch out.
Good now.
Remember
I'm
that up?
fucking dead. You down 2 right now? What are we on, guys?
I'm on ball.
I'm transing this.
Can you clear mines up it?
2. Still a grab coming up?
I don't know. I don't think there's much you could have done here. I think some of the ults your team previously used weren't used properly at all. I think the beat, for example, had almost no value. You guys pretty much used it like right out of choke. You guys got no kills with it. They hadn't really used any of their ultimates either, so it was pretty much like a no value beat.
Right.
So this makes it really awkward for you as well now to be able to find an opportunity to trance because they still haven't used any ultimates really other than hamster ult. They still have the Pharaoh in the back. If you notice that the Pharaoh's just kind of hanging out in the back like this, and you realize that you guys are running standard goats, you can be the one to call to move up because most likely you guys aren't going to be able to do anything about that Pharaoh. And the fact that she was able to build another barrage so quickly just means that you guys are just letting her kind of farm for free when you don't need to. You guys can like take more initiative and be more aggressive on their front line. If the Pharah is playing like that and you notice it, because I feel like nobody really called exactly what to do. I feel like you guys were just kind of playing around cart just to contest it, and Pharah was just free spamming behind. You guys can't really kill her; she has a mercy with her, so at that point you just have to ignore her and just go forward.
Right.
And then probably you would have found an opportunity to trance because you're not playing safe in apartments anymore. You're moving up to actually start making a move, and you could potentially find an opportunity to trance more aggressively, and close out the fight before the Fair is able to build another barrage.
I can't grab anything.
You're only three. It's probably not worth it. Coming back.
Fair half.
I can kill her.
Nice.
Kill Mercy.
Hey, we're here. Getting dust.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Grab it. Grab it.
I'm on.
100% winnable. It might.
They use nano.
I got the diva
Yeah.
now.
Diva,
I'm bombing it.
Big bomb.
What up with this lining up, man?
Eva's on point.
I can orb you, Lucio.
Yeah, I'm on
I think another important thing to keep in mind when they are running a Pharah, if the Pharah is playing far, if she's just spamming from like pretty far away, then by all means just ignore her. Your comp will not be able to do anything to her as you see her coming closer, because if you guys start making moves and going more aggressive, that Pharah is going to be coming closer to you. When you see her getting like much closer, then you can start discording her and calling her position and then calling to focus her. Because that's really the only chance I see that you're going to be able to get a kill onto her. Otherwise, if she's as far as she is, like up there, you guys can't do anything about it. Just completely ignore her. You can even make the call to go forward, discord something else, call focus on that, and if you need to trance, you can trance because they already barrage, so you don't even need to worry about that anymore.
Diva. I have no better Hammond.
Okay. I booped
I'm
him.
stuck, I'm stuck.
Burn these guys.
I might get one shot, maybe.
No, you're good. I'll
Watch out for Widow top.
Widow's top main.
I'm one.
Window.
I don't have any matrix. Side for rockets.
Good stabilize.
Alright, I'm hiding the flank for Widow.
They used nano just now. They
Yes.
used bomb when the fight started. They
They
got
used-
Hammond, right?
Yeah, they
Widow
don't.
main
They shouldn't
now.
have barrage yet.
Okay.
Alright, just I'm gonna
Hamster's coming right side. Can we move in left? Get a little bit closer to them. Where's this Widow?
I'll stay near cart.
Okay, ball's still gonna go from right side to touch cart. We're close to our...
They dropped. They have Winston now. They have Winston
Their
goats.
arches are now.
Okay.
Darius using me.
It's floats.
Dude.
We can be aggressive into them. They don't have the Widow.
Winston discorded.
Yeah, Winston's down.
The brig's alone near cart.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Break.
Brig's dead.
Go in there, help him out.
Let her rally.
Last fight, yeah, last fight. Good job.
Killed me.
That's fine. I'm with you on
I'm on
Zarya.
Diva inside.
Lucio, can you pick us up?
So this is kind of unfortunate.
I think I would have survived if I went out through the
Yeah.
other door.
Exactly, yeah. There's definitely a very good chance that you should be able to survive this. I think you were just kind of thrown off by, her throwing the Diva Bomb in there.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. It's just something you should think of more when they do have Diva Bomb. You should pretty much always be expecting it as a Zen. You can't afford to either have the Diva Bomb force your trance for no value at all, or worst case scenario, kill you like it did here. So yeah, anytime they have Diva Bomb, I mean, you're probably one of the main targets for her. So you should always be more, I guess, conscious about your positioning.
Right.
Yeah, I'll pick you up.
Yo, Diva's one up top.
You're alone, movie. You're alone.
Wait, BPC down.
Yeah, care for C9.
Okay, Mac. Diva's one.
The Diva's gonna come over this
Yeah.
side.
Someone's
Here's
gonna
one.
touch her.
I see her. She's on the roof.
Okay, she's
Oh
touching.
my.
I'm low.
We have beat coming back. I'm coming back. Do I beat this? Okay, I'm gonna get out of shield.
Come on for sure.
I'm on break.
Monkey discorded.
One breaks.
Break discorded.
One breaks still.
No stun.
Nice.
Nice. Diva's at max. Nice.
Breaks discorded again.
Monkey's in.
Monkey discorded.
We good? Are we healthy?
Zarya discorded right now. I'm transing.
Okay, Okay, target, run it.
Zarya is still discorded.
Sorry, I got
Big grab.
Sorry, in the grab.
I'm gonna
Break
run
this.
back to that.
Break discorded.
I need help. Come here.
Yeah, I can help.
That's fine, we still win this target.
Break still discorded. Zarya discorded.
Sorry, go forward.
Alright, keep chasing, I'm with you.
I'm on the Zarya.
Burn.
She's one.
She actually won.
So I want to say something that happened or that I noticed before this fight took place. In general, when you die early in a previous fight, and you're respawning like this, you have a much better idea of how far away you are from the fight, and whether or not the enemy team is going to be able to take the fight before you get back. So it should be, or you should make it a point to pretty much tell your team whether or not you're going to be able to make it back in time for a fight. And if not, then this is a situation where the payload is kind of close to capping, but there's probably like a 10-second window where if your team actually falls back and waits for you at least 10 seconds, there's a much higher chance that you can actually meet them right when the fight starts.
Right.
So since you're the one coming from spawn, this is always going to be your job. Your team is focused on what's in front of them. They're focused on the enemy team looking to take a fight pretty soon. They're not going to be thinking about how far or how close you are to the fight. So that's really going to be up to you to tell them. The other thing I wanted to say was you were coming up close to a trance. As soon as you get to the fight, you see they have, you pretty much see all the heroes who are like fighting on the payload.
Yeah.
You can make a very quick plan. If you know they don't have primal, for example, that, I'm close to trance. If the monkey dives, I'll discord him, we focus him, he has no primal. It can be that simple. It doesn't need to be complicated, but you've already identified like a winning condition for the fight to your team, and that's going to make things a lot smoother, and it's going to make it a lot easier for your team to follow up. So just keep that in mind as well. You can make plans on the go with your trance. They don't have to be complicated. They can be super simple. They can be like simple, like single target focus calls.
Right. Okay.
Are you still left in the windows, maybe? I'm dead.
Oh no.
Monkey discorded.
Keep fighting it.
I'm back.
It's over. They just ended with grab, keep there.
Yep.
Fine, good hold. Just take up arrow.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm on Hammond for first couple fights.
You can probably just come back and swap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have time.
Okay. Yeah, there's already just respawn.
They finished.
So I think we should actually probably end here. There are a couple things I want to say before I let you go. I want to give you some time to just chill before you guys have to. So hopefully that's fine. I know we didn't get through much, but
Yeah, no, that's fine.
honestly, this is like very normal. Like back in Fusion, we were doing like 1 map per hour. We would scrim like 4 hours a day and then 2 to 3 hours of VOD review a night, and we would only get through like 2 or 3 maps. So this is very normal.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I guess to close out, I think the biggest things for you to take away from this, one, I would focus more on finding better ways and communicating them to your team, especially your other support players when you're running GOATS. How exactly you guys want to use your ultimates, what sequence you want to use them in. Do you potentially want to use a rally to bait the enemy defensive ults, depending on what they have? And you can always make that kind of easier for your team to do if you're the one to speak up about it, if you're aware of it. The other thing I wanted to say is think more about ult economy, and given the enemy composition, what are you going to be looking to use your trance for? Given the enemy composition and given what they have in that moment, there's going to be things you're going to want to prioritize as Zen with trance over others. For example, you would much rather trance a shatter than a rally, for example. So always think of that when considering how exactly you want to use your trance. And talk to your team about it. It never hurts, even if they don't have their support ultimates, to talk about how you want to use your ultimate, because that could potentially give them ideas of how they want to help you set up your trance. The other thing I wanted to say on Anna, I thought you did much better in this than the previous VOD we went over, in that here you were calling your nades a lot more. You pretty much called every debuff you got. You called when you were throwing nades. It just felt like you were more communicative with your team,
Right.
which is always good. On Ana, however, I would still consider more ways to set up certain teammates depending on what you guys are running. So that if you want to combo nade with something, you can always kind of be the one to initiate it.
Okay.
If you notice your Zarya has grav, then help her think of ways to set that up so that you can get like an extremely valuable nade in the grav.
Okay.
And that way you'll increase your chances much more of actually winning that fight. And just in general, creating more variables to turn fights into your favor. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I wanted to go over.
That's fine.
Unless you have any questions or anything else.
Do you care if I share, like, because I'm recording just for like my own personal? Do you care if I share it anywhere?
No, I don't mind.
Okay.
That's totally fine.
Cool.
All right, so I'm gonna let you go. You said you have a match at 8.
Yeah, the Zotac.
Okay, is that gonna be streamed or no?
I don't think it is. Like, I could stream it myself.
Okay. No, I don't think you would have to do that. I was just curious if it was gonna be streamed. If it was, I would have watched it. If
Yeah.
not, then
No, I'm not. People might stream it themselves, but I don't know if it's like gonna have
yeah,
like.
it's fine. If it's not like an actual broadcast, then it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter too much. I was just curious. So yeah, I'm gonna let you go. So good luck in your match.
Thank you.
I appreciate you showing interest again. Hopefully you've learned something from this. Hopefully, at least you feel it was worth it.
Oh,
And
definitely. Like, I've noticed, like, I'm doing a lot. Even like after one VOD that we've
nice,
had.
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
Um,
we're gonna be
well,
like
that's really
going
good to
into
hear.
winter break. So, and like now that I have my open
Yeah.
team, we're gonna be scrimming a lot still. So
Okay.
I should be able to get
All
more
right.
VODs.
Well, that's good to hear. I think you definitely have a lot more potential. I think if you start thinking about, more ways to kind of help yourself and your teammates,
Mhm.
you're gonna find that the game just feels much easier to play,
Right.
especially when you're scrimming. And maybe easier isn't the right word, but it's just gonna feel much nicer to play
More fluid,
when you
yeah.
guys are, yeah, exactly. You guys are gonna feel more organized. There's more structure to your play. You guys are able to identify like winning conditions for any given fight at any point during the map. And it'll just make things a lot more fun for you guys overall. Um, so yeah, I mean, best of luck to you. Good luck in your match tonight,
Thank you.
and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this for. Like working, with multiple teams, multiple
Right.
players, whatever. But if you do come across another VOD you want to go over, for example, maybe in the next week, then I'm still doing it for now. So if you do have another VOD later this week that you want to go over, I'd be more than down to do that with
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
So
Like,
just let
even
me
if I
know.
don't get a scrim, I'll try and get a ladder game or something.
Yeah, that would be totally fine as well. Whatever you have, basically. But so yeah, best of luck. I'm gonna head out now and let you do your thing.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yep. Take it easy, man.
See ya.
Yep.